Good morning, everyone, and a happy Tuesday. My name is Nick Marro with Occupy Fantasy. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Marro DFS. As always, I'm here to help you break down the NBA DFS slate on both DraftKings and FanDuel. If you haven't already, please like the video. Also, subscribe to the channel. That helps us get more free content like this out to you. If you're not already a member of Occupy Fantasy, check the links in the description below. You get access to the model you see here in this video, as well as our single lineup builder, multi lineup builder, private Discord server full of DFS pros to help you improve your game. There's a 30-minute window leading up to each slate's lock where you can ask your lineup and slate specific questions. So, without further ado, let's get into the slate. I got a few guys penciled in here. Um, but yeah, we got a five gamer tonight, locking at 7 p.m. So it's going to be pretty easy to go through game by game. Have most of the injury news we need. So let's get into this here. So first game on the slate, we have the Miami Heat at the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavs are 5.5 point favorites at home. So Donovan Mitchell's back for Cleveland. There's really no major injury news on the Cleveland side of the ball. Kevin Love's probable. Dylan Windler's out. So I like Mitchell. I think he's a little bit too cheap on both sides. We're seeing 8,100 over on FanDuel, 8,600 over on DK. He's fine. I think he's certainly in play. The issue here is that 2 and 11 point game total. This is one of the lowest totals we've seen all season. Just not a great game environment for fantasy points. And this is a healthy team, so they're mostly priced where they should be. I do like Mitchell. I do think he's a bit too cheap. Darius Garland looks fine here, but he's kind of priced up as though Mitchell would be out, so I'm not going to get to him much. Evan Mobley, Jared Allen, similar story. I do think Allen's a little bit too cheap over on DK, but at the same time, he's tough to prioritize over some of the other center plays we have on the slate tonight. Karis LeVert with Mitchell back in the lineup's no longer relevant to me. We're seeing decent ownership going to Isaac Okoro. Don't mind him as a last man in type play, but he's really not a priority, just not a high usage player. He will see the minutes though, so if we don't get better value, I could see getting to some Okoro, but as things stand, really no priorities for me on Cleveland, except maybe Mitchell because he's a bit too cheap. But at the same time, tough matchup with Miami. Two slow teams that play good defense, just a very low total. Over on the Miami side of the ball, things are a little bit more interesting. We have Jimmy Butler questionable, Kane, Jovic, Robinson, Yurtseven all out. Those are all kind of secondary plays though. But if Butler's in, I think he's fine on DK at 7,800. Kind of similar to Mitchell. Tough game, tough environment, but he's a little bit too cheap. If Butler's out, though, I think Bam Adebayo and Tyler Hero are going to become very interesting options. Even Kyle Lowry as well. 4,700 on DK just feels too cheap. So if Butler's out, I do like Lowry. Do like Butler on both sides. Do like Hero. But if Butler's in, there's just no priorities for me here. Again, very low total. Everyone's kind of priced where they should be. We're seeing Caleb Martin get some ownership as a value play. He's kind of similar to Okoro in that he could get you there. He's cheap enough that he doesn't need too much to go his way to hit value, but at the same time, he's just very difficult to trust. So, first game in the slate, not a great game. If we're waiting on some news, maybe you just kind of scratch that one off. But at the same time, I do think Butler's a little too cheap on DK and Mitchell's a little too cheap on both sides. So, moving into the next game on the slate, we have the Lakers at the Knicks. The Knicks are 3.5 point favorites at home. The Lakers are the only team on the slate on a back-to-back. We do not yet have their injury report. We could kind of guess though. Anthony Davis and LeBron James both rested last night. LeBron is apparently sore. He could be out here. If he is, that would make Anthony Davis extremely appealing. Davis did play 33 minutes his last game out. So if LeBron's out, I do like Davis on both sides at 10-4 on DK, 10-2 on FanDuel. Maybe people are hesitant to go there as he is still recovering from an injury. But the fact he played 33 minutes in that game against the Celtics tells me he's pretty much close to 100% at this point. Russell Westbrook, if LeBron's out, 6,700 on FanDuel is going to be very appealing. I think you could get to him in tournaments there, even if LeBron is in. Um, but yeah, we really need that news. I think they both play. Like that's my hunch. There was news that LeBron's banged up, but at the same time, I think he's probably going to be in. If he's out, though, again, Davis looks great. Westbrook would look better. All the other starters are going to see a bit of a boost. Thomas Bryant, Rui Hachimura's secondary options would become a bit appealing there as well. But this is the only team on the slate who we need their injury report, and it hasn't come out yet. So we're going to have to wait and see. But if LeBron's in, no major priorities for me on this team, except maybe Westbrook on FanDuel. But at the same time, he's not a priority. You can't really trust him. But if LeBron's out, Davis would look great here. Westbrook would look solid, especially on DK. I mean, on FanDuel, not on DK. I mean, I'm misspeaking because I'm looking at that price on Westbrook, 8,700 on DK. Even if LeBron's out, I'm not going to want to get to him there. I mean, it would take both those guys being out for me to want to get to Westbrook on DraftKings. Schroeder's okay as a secondary option. I'm never really rushing to get to Pat Beverly, just not a great fantasy producer. But keep an eye on the starting lineup if LeBron's out. Maybe we see Lonnie Walker slide in. His minutes have been kind of limited, but once he works back up over 30, he could be valuable at 4,200 on DK. But as things stand, no priorities here, but we're going to have to wait and see. Over on the Knicks side of the ball, um, Mitchell Robinson's still out. That's really the one big piece of news we're looking at. Sorting by ownership over here. I mean, Jalen Brunson looks great on both sides, especially on FanDuel at just 7,500. He's someone I could see penciling in. This is just cheaper than he's been lately. Hasn't been producing at that super high level he was with RJ Barrett out of the lineup, but I think they overcorrected his price on FanDuel. So 7,500 for Brunson certainly looks good to me over there. Don't mind him on DK either at 7,900. Not necessarily a top priority, but he is a strong guard play. Guard is just very loaded tonight. Probably the best position on the slate in terms of quality options. Julius Randle looks good on both sites, drawing a lot of ownership. 10-1 over on DK, 9-4 on FanDuel. A little bit more appealing, but he does have a very high ceiling. This is a great matchup against his former team. Quentin Grimes is the last man in, getting a lot of ownership on both sides. I mean, the thing with Grimes, he's just one of these Thibodeau guys that the minutes are going to be there for him. So I mean, you can't really rely on him to take a lot of shots. You can't really rely on his shot to go in. But at the same time, whenever you're getting a player that's cheap playing 30, 36 minutes, 38 minutes on a given night, he does have some appeal. So I don't mind Grimes. It's just he hasn't been great in terms of point per minute. So I'm not rushing to get to him. But at the same time, he's going to be in play unless we get better value opening up throughout the day. RJ Barrett looks fine in a thin small forward position. Really don't mind quickly. But yeah, neither are plays I'm rushing to. Whoever starts at center, I imagine it's Jericho Sims is going to be appealing. Hartenstein, usually the better fantasy point per minute producer, but he's been coming off the bench, playing fewer minutes, so it's going to be tough to trust either of them. But again, we're lacking value on this slate, so I can see getting the Sims, prefer him if he starts. Hartenstein, if he were to suddenly start, would become a very, very popular value play. So keep an eye on that Knicks lineup, but as things stand, they are healthy. I like Brunson a lot on FanDuel. Don't mind Grimes on either site. Randall looks good if you can afford him, but I wouldn't call him a priority. Moving into the next game on the slate now, we have the Hornets at the Bucks. The Bucks are 11-point favorites at home. Giannis is probable. No Bobby Portis. We'll start on the Milwaukee side. So yeah, with Giannis in and healthy, he's obviously one of the better plays on the slate. No surprise there. Did he just get ruled out during this video? Because he's suddenly not in the model. Pulling up Twitter on my other screen. I mean, if Giannis is out, then Drew Holiday is going to become a major, major priority. We're also going to have to take a look at guys like Brook Lopez. I was already going to talk about Pat Connaughton as a good play. But yeah, Giannis was probable in the injury report, so this would have had to come out between 10:30 a.m. and 11 a.m. I don't know that that just took place. Um, Waiting for this to load. Let's see here. But yeah, sorry for the dead air, but I mean, this would be major, major news. It would completely flip the slate on its head. So we have to at least take a look and discuss it. If Giannis is in, I like him for sure. It's a great matchup. There is some blowout risk, but it is a 244 point game total. And yeah, I don't know why Giannis isn't in the model right now, actually. Maybe if we refresh, he comes back because he is listed as probable on the injury report. I've seen no news that suggests he's going to be out. So I'm all over Giannis here if he's in. Again, some small degree of blowout risk, and he's back. Okay, deep breaths. Giannis is in. I do like him here, but I think the one core play for Milwaukee is going to be Pat Connaughton over on DraftKings. I like him on FanDuel as well, but you're getting him at 4,500. Not the best fantasy producer historically, but with Bobby Portis out of the lineup, we've seen him benefiting the most. So I really like Pat Connaughton here. I think in tournaments you could pivot to maybe Grayson Allen or Joe Ingles as cheaper, lower owned options, but Connaughton's been safer. I'm going to pencil him in on both sites. But yeah, for a minute there, I thought Giannis was going to be out, but it looks like he's in, which is good to see. Where are you, Pat? Pat. And yeah, he fills a small forward position, power forward as well. Let's see. Yeah, small forward position that's pretty thin, so I like getting to Connaughton. I don't know why I'd put him into the regular forward. Let's see here. There we go. We got Connaughton on both sites. I think he looks good here. Giannis, if you can afford him, he's solid. Drew's fine. Middleton's been coming off the bench. I'm really not getting to him at all. But yeah, Drew's fine. Guard's just loaded. Lopez is fine as a secondary option, seeing a few extra rebounds with Portis out of the lineup, but not of enough of a boost to really call him a priority. The priorities here are Connaughton and then Giannis if you can afford him. Ingles and Grayson Allen look like decent secondary options, but not really calling either a priority. So over on the Charlotte side of things, still no Kelly Oubre, no Cody Martin either. LaMelo Ball looks great on FanDuel. 8K. On DK, he's 9,500 though. So this is kind of a tale of two sides. I like LaMelo a ton on FanDuel. He's going to be super popular, probably one of the chalkier plays on the slate. But over on DK at 9,500, I don't think you have to pay up that much. So I like LaMelo a ton on FanDuel. Don't mind Rozier as a secondary option. He still feels a bit overpriced with LaMelo back in the lineup. I think his price is going to come down with LaMelo in there as his usage starts to dip, but it hasn't fully adjusted yet. So I don't mind him in tournaments. Wouldn't call him a priority. Mason Plumlee looks fine. Who else here? Mark Williams drawing a lot of ownership over on DK. He's been solid as the backup center, but there are random games it seems they use Nick Richards as the backup center instead of him. So I'd just be cautious there. Don't mind Plumlee. I really like Gordon Hayward actually at 5,200 on DK. I think he's kind of a sneaky option, just a little bit too cheap. Again, still no Kelly Oubre, so he's seeing a little bit of extra usage. His minutes continue to climb as he recovers from an injury as well. So I like Hayward on both sides. Really like LaMelo Ball over on FanDuel, but there's no other major priorities for me on these Hornets. Um, Moving into the next game on the slate now, we have the Clippers at the Bulls. The Bulls are 3-point underdogs at home, 226-point game total here. We'll start on the Chicago side. They're pretty much healthy, so nothing too notable. Still no Lonzo Ball. He's going to be out for most of the season. Derek Jones is probable. Javonte Green is out. So nothing major here. Levine looks good on FanDuel. 7,200 certainly feels too cheap. I don't mind DeRozan on either side. He's very scoring dependent for a guy in the 8 to 9K range, but he has hit value consistently. Vooch is another good center play. Kind of priced where he should be, though, so it's tough to call him a priority. Patrick Williams, if we don't get more value to open up 4,900 on DK is very appealing to me. Don't mind 5,300 over on FanDuel either. I do trust Pat Connaughton more, but Williams is kind of a logical pivot in tournaments if you're only using one or the other. I think in cash you could play both again on DK unless we get more value to open up. But as things stand, the one priority for me here is really Zach LaVine over on FanDuel. Just 7,200 feels too cheap for him, knowing what he's capable of. So we got our guard spots full over on FanDuel. I mean, you could move Connaughton down to small forward. I think that's probably what I'd do. You don't want to plug in too much. But yeah, I also mentioned Gordon Hayward, who looks good. We got Pat Connaughton. So there's a lot of good plays, but we're kind of building a balanced build over here. Similar story over on DK. I really like Jokic as a pay up tonight. Spoiler alert, but at the same time, he's going to be tough to get to unless we get more value. So no priorities for me on Chicago except Levine over on FanDuel. I think Pat Williams is kind of fine as the last man in. Obviously, Vooch and DeRozan are good plays, but I'm not forcing either of them. So on the Clippers side of things, Covington, Jackson, Morris are all questionable. The thing though is Paul George is in and healthy. Kawhi is also in and healthy, so they're going to absorb most of the usage on this team. Paul George looks great on both sides, especially on FanDuel. 8,300 certainly feels too cheap. I could probably pencil him in over here. The price on DK, 8,900, reasonable there as well. I do like him. I think he's a solid option. If you could find the extra salary for Kawhi, he certainly is the higher ceiling. You're getting him at much lower ownership. But yeah, the price kind of dictates that. Zubac is kind of a boomer bust center, very high ceiling, but also a low floor. Don't mind him as a tournament option. Not someone I'd prioritize though. But if we get say Covington, Jackson, and Morris all out, that maybe makes Nick Batum a starter where he'd be appealing as a value piece. Maybe Terrence Mann becomes more appealing as the starting point guard. He hasn't been great lately with George and Kawhi both healthy, but if all those other guys are out, maybe we do see a little boost in his fantasy point per minute production. I think it's more likely we see Luke Kennard get the nod. Just hasn't been good as he works his way back from injury, but yeah, so for me, it's really George or Kawhi on the Clippers. Don't mind Zubac in large field tournaments. But yeah, it's tough to call anything a priority here except maybe Paul George over on FanDuel. Moving into the last game on the slate now, we have the Denver Nuggets at the New Orleans Pelicans. Pelicans, still no Zion Williamson, no Dyson Daniels. We can start over there. So Brandon Ingram's working his way back from injury. He feels a little bit too cheap here. We haven't seen him go over 30 minutes yet, though, since he's been back. So I'm just a little bit hesitant to click there. On a short slate, though, there's certainly merit to rostering him. CJ McCollum's price is coming down a bit. I think it should come down a bit more with Ingram back. We haven't really seen that adjustment made yet, so he's fine in tournaments. Not something I'd be rushing to get to. We've been playing a lot of Najee Marshall with Ingram out of the lineup. He's not nearly as appealing now that Ingram's back. You could maybe mix in some of these wings, Marshall, Jones, Murphy in tournaments, but none of them are really priorities for me. Joe Val, similar to Zubac, kind of a boomer bust center, very high ceiling, but a low floor for his price. Don't mind him. In large field tournaments. Same with Larry Nance. He's kind of that direct backup to Joe Val, and we're seeing good ownership going to Nance. So he just feels a little bit too cheap. I mean, if he's playing those backup center minutes, maybe Nance becomes relevant. Again, we're really, really lacking value on this slate as things stand. Hoping things open up a bit more throughout the day. Where are you, Larry? Let's take a look at Nance's game logs quickly. Yeah, he's been hitting value. I mean, not seeing 30 minutes a game, barely seeing 25 consistently, but at the same time, I mean, if you're going to get close to 30 fantasy points out of 4,500 player on FanDuel and even cheaper on DK, I think he's someone you could get to and feel pretty good about it. So no priorities for me here. I think Nance is a little bit overowned, but if there's no more value, he might be a necessary evil. But yeah, hopefully we get some more news throughout the day. Then over on the Denver side of things, Jokic probably the best pay up option on the slate. Pretty comfortable saying that. Obviously, Giannis looks good as well, but Jokic's minutes have been more consistent. Jamal Murray's listed as questionable. If he's out, I think we could see Bones Highland starting in a prominent role. Apparently, he's on the trade block. They're looking for a first round pick. Seems like they might get it. So maybe if they can run Bones out here, he looks good, plays 30 plus minutes. They get some bites for a trade, which would benefit us in DFS tonight. So keep an eye on that. If Murray's in, he's a good play. If he's out, I'd like Highland to start for me to want to go there. We have seen him come off the bench at times with Murray out of the lineup. But if he's starting, that kind of tells you they're going to showcase him. So keep an eye on that. Don't mind Gordon Porter. KCP's been really good lately. Bruce Brown, I'm not playing unless one of these other starters are ruled out. So keep an eye on that. Love Jokic, but I think as things stand, unless we get more value, we kind of have to go with the balanced build. So that's your game by game breakdown. Just kind of looking what I built so far over on FanDuel. I mean, you still got 7K per player. You'd probably have to pull a couple of these guys to get up to Joker, though. So I'm sticking with the balanced build as things stand. I mean, I didn't put in as much over on DK. Let's sort by ownership quickly. Connaughton, Grayson Allen, Giannis, Brunson, George. Let's see here. I'll put in Jalen Brunson. Probably Paul George. I like it, that 8,900 tag. This is kind of a good start for you over on DK. Again, I think we're kind of stuck with the balance build until we get more value. Seeing a lot of ownership go to guys like Pat Connaughton, Jamal Murray, Julius Randle, all solid options. Murray, again, is questionable. If he's out, Bones Highland would become appealing. Um, Sorting by value on DK, Connaughton, Lopez with Bobby Portis still out. No surprise there. KCP looks good. He's been really hitting his shots lately, which you love to see out of him. He's been pretty inconsistent throughout his career, but he's streaky. So when he's hot, I do like KCP. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's a tricky slate for 5 games. Most of these teams are healthy. We're going to need some more value to open up. I do like the balance build as things stand. You're seeing guys like LaMelo Ball, Jalen Brunson too cheap over on FanDuel, Paul George as well. It's definitely easier to build on FanDuel tonight between the two sites. I mean, we have seen FanDuel have the softer pricing. Um, on many slates, but not every night. But tonight is certainly one of those nights. So once again, my name is Nick Marro with Occupy Fantasy. Please like the video. Also subscribe to the channel. You can find me on Twitter at Nick Marro DFS. If you'd like to become a member of Occupy Fantasy, check the links in the description below. Let's have some fun tonight, everyone, and make some money. Good luck and take care.